go first?
Good afternoon.
State your name for the record, please, and proceed with your testimony.
Absolutely. Good afternoon, Madam Chairperson, members of the committee. My name is Christopher Pfeiffer, and I am here today as a resident of Mount Wolf, Pennsylvania, and the manager of a vape shop in York. I was also a smoker until 3 years ago when I discovered the wonders of vaping. Now I get my nicotine craving satisfied without the nasty side effects of cigarette smoking. There are no longer butts littering the pavement outside the house, nor overflowing ashtrays emanating horrible, noxious odors. The best part is that I don't smell like a smoker anymore. My clothes, my car, my house, all free of tobacco smoke. For those who want to believe that secondhand vape is just as bad as secondhand smoke, go ahead and ask my girlfriend if she prefers the old days of having everything smelling like an ashtray or if she prefers the way things are now. In fact, early studies of the vapor emitted from a personal vaporizer then exhaled contains comparable amounts of pollution similar to normal outside air. I mentioned that I'm a manager of a vape shop here in Pennsylvania, and as far as I can tell, passing this bill as it is currently written would do wonders for business outside Philadelphia, and possibly out of the great state of Pennsylvania. Our business used to be located in Glen Burnie, Maryland, but for reasons similar to why we are here today, business owners decided to relocate to York, Pennsylvania. Passing of this bill will undoubtedly send plenty of vapors, new and old, out of Philadelphia to satisfy their desire. We would hope that they head over to our shop and experience a vape-friendly atmosphere where they can see what we have to offer, have the opportunity to try the myriad of different flavors that are available, and enjoy their device and their flavor at any number of vape-friendly establishments in our area. That's all I have. Thank you for your time, and vape on.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Patrick Carroll. I'm a resident of Philadelphia. I'm the co-founder of an electronic cigarette company called ecigs. We're a Philadelphia company, though our office is located in Fulcroft, just over the border. But we're a Philadelphia company for tax purposes and all that. I'm an honest smoker. Yes.
You pay taxes in Fulcroft.
No, here, Philadelphia. That's where our headquarters is in Philadelphia. I'm a non-smoker, but I became interested in this industry after doing a lot of research, and there has been a lot of scientific studies done on the effects of both ecig vapor and secondhand vapor. I'm a chemical engineer, and I've watched a lot of my coworkers and friends and such struggle with attempting to quit smoking and using the methods that are available, and wanted to see if I could become part of that, among other things. I want to focus fairly narrowly on the issue of indoor air quality around ecigs. There have been 3 or 4 studies done on this, all of which have determined no detectable toxic components of the vapor from the user exhales when using an electronic cigarette. What I feel is the best study, which is called Secondhand Exposure to Vapors from Electronic Cigarettes by Jan Shogala, found, this was actually referenced by Dr. Schwartz in his testimony, saying that there were detectable levels of nicotine found in the exhaled vapor of ecigs. It's true that they were detectable, however, our abilities to detect things are pretty darn good in the science community these days. The levels which they detected were 0.8 to 6.2 micrograms per meter cubed, which is equivalent to parts per billion. I did a calculation of just how much nicotine a user could be, a non-user, a person sitting next to a person vaping could be expected to be exposed to from these based on these figures. And even at the high end of the range, after 8 hours, they would be exposed to the equivalent nicotine contained in 1 eggplant. There is nicotine in
1 eggplant.
Eggplant, yes. There's nicotine. That's true. I will allow that. I mean, it's an average eggplant. So, I do feel that there is a belief, and as a non-smoker, I can appreciate this belief that nicotine is this terrifying chemical we need to avoid at all costs. But it is, at low levels, perfectly harmless, as far as I can tell, and as far as cigarettes and their lack of warning labels can tell. And, other than nicotine, again, there are no detectable tar, minimal particulate levels, tobacco-specific nitrosamines, or any of the other components of cigarette smoke found in the exhaled vapor of ecig. And one reason why we might want to keep people who are trying to quit smoking indoors rather than sending them outside to smoke with people who are smoking cigarettes is that, a lot of cigarette smoking appears to me to be a social activity. So if a person who's trying to quit smoking is forced to go out there with the smokers, he or she is more likely to bum a cigarette for one of them and start smoking. And if they're able to stay inside and not go outside to use what they're using as an alternative to cigarettes, I think they're more likely to be able to quit. I suppose that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Next witness, please.
Thank you, Council. My name is Chris Weber. I graduated from the University of Pennsylvania and lived in West Philadelphia for 5 years. Though we studied neurology and psychology at Penn, in addition to working at Huck in a brain imaging laboratory, I'm not here to talk about the science. I'm here to talk about my experiences as a former smoker. I was a smoker for almost 10 years, and now I'm thankfully quit thanks to vaping. And as a former smoker, I can actually address a question you brought up earlier. What is a joy? Why do people smoke? Smokers represent a community. I tried to quit times and times again, and like this gentleman just mentioned, when you see smokers outside, you want to join them. I would see smokers congregating outside bars or buildings, and that's where I felt comfortable. That was my community. As I'm sure we're all aware, because we've heard so much today, tobacco is an incredibly hard habit to break. 95% of people who try fail. Furthermore, it's a huge public health issue. Almost 500,000 people die every year because of tobacco. We need a solution. Traditional nicotine replacement therapy has a success rate of, as was mentioned, about 7%. And, as we heard from opponents of the ban or regulation, people should stick to FDA-approved therapies like the patch or the gum or the lozenge, as well as therapy. Personally, I know a lot of people who just can't afford to pay thousands of dollars and spend hours every week in therapy, on top of spending hundreds of dollars a month on techniques that just don't work. The reality is, people smoke because life is hard, and they get a little bit of pleasure from smoking, and it gets them through their day. The problem is that it kills them. Vapor devices represent an incredible breakthrough because they allow smokers to get that pleasure, have that sense of community, but avoids almost all, if not all, of the health risks of tobacco. I understand my story is only one story, but there's quite a bit of research, in addition to anecdotal research, population-based studies that show between 22% and 88% of people who start vaping completely end their tobacco use. I know this is true, and there's actually quite a bit of research that I can send to you if you'd like. The reason why it's so effective is because vaping preserves that sense of community. It preserves the ritual of smoking while completely eliminating most, if not all, of the health risks. It's not a sneaky plan to normalize smoking. It's a community that's trying not to kill itself. Like it was mentioned before, this vaping came along well before tobacco industries got into it. This is a community that's really watching every other person die because of this habit. And we're trying to stop that. I mean, it really is an attempt not to save our lives. As was mentioned by other people testifying, there really is no scientific basis for a ban, especially considering the fact that secondhand vapor has never been demonstrated to have any negative harm effects to bystanders. So that I ask you really have to consider when considering this regulation, what the real effect is. You're going to be driving smokers back out to face their own personal death, to be around other people using tobacco. And that really is going to harm a lot of people. You have to ask yourself, why are you going to do this? Again, no scientific basis, and everything that I've heard today speaks to the fact that people just don't like the way it looks. They don't like the appearance of vapor being exhaled. Personally, I think when
to be very clear, I was a smoker, and I was a smoker for the better part of a decade. Happy day, religiously, and there was absolutely no possibility, nothing I was able to block me away. I did go through the patches, the gum, I did Chantix with horrific side effects. I used all of the appropriate methodology in order to try and quit up until the point of actually hypnosis. The only thing that has worked for me in order to get me to quit is electronic cigarettes. So while there may be other speculation that they don't work because they're not FDA approved, I can tell you that myself and hundreds more like me that I've met in my travels would say the contrary. Also in my experience, there have been establishments which I have used my personal vaporizer in. Usually it's with permission. Most of the time it's in social situations, such as at bars and things of that nature. And for the most part, not only has this been a favorable thing for the bars in not having to regulate patrons going in and outside, but I can say for myself, at least a dozen people that I've met in that situation, I've converted to not smoking. Again, this is over a dozen people that no longer smoke because they were introduced to an electronic cigarette inside the walls of an establishment. What this bill here, as it's written, would effectively do is prevent that situation from occurring in the city of Philadelphia. Also, during my tenure as a vapor, I have become quite learned. I like to consider myself to be a lifetime learner, and my pedigree allows me to do this. Before coming into this realm, I was a clinical scientist. My title was actually a clinical research associate. I worked in the research and development of pharmaceutical compounds. I've read the vast majority of the clinical studies associated with electronic cigarettes, and I can tell you with a straight face that that actually there's never been one that I've read that the scientific methodology is well founded enough to make any negative conclusions against the use of electronic cigarettes, both in primary user and secondary vapor. So basically, I'm reiterating what I think my colleagues here have already said. There really isn't much of a basis behind why this bill is being introduced, and in fact, it will eventually be harmful in the fact that the availability to switch to electronic cigarettes will be very much limited by this bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your testimony. Who's next?
Thank you.
Let me recognize Councilwoman Cindy Bass.
My name is Chris Doney, and first off, I'd like to thank everyone for the opportunity to voice my opinion regarding this legislation. Now I can do like many other people have testified and explained how electronic cigarettes have changed my life, my health, etc. And it would be the same testimony you've heard from many others. I'd much rather spend the time discussing why we should embrace this vaping community and the e-cig industry, while trying to avoid demonizing vaping and casting out those who are simply looking for safer alternatives to smoking tobacco. Now I ask you guys, why are vapers being targeted? I run a social club called Vape Me in the Allentown area. It's an opportunity for e-cig users and potential e-cig users to get together, enjoy the company of others. We have a few beers and laughs. We sample each other's and other vendors' e-liquids. We run giveaways and host classes on e-cig related topics. We are a tight-knit group, varying in age from mid-20s to into their 50s. And we probably would have never become acquainted if it weren't for electronic cigarettes. We host at a local diner and are all paying customers, providing that local business, an average of 3 to one single complaint come from our group, and we have never had anyone ask us to stop vaping or complain to a manager. Now, if a bill like 140095 were to pass in the Allentown area, we would be required to relocate our meetups back to a cigarette-infested bar, going home reeking of cigarettes and the very thing we are trying to get away from. Why force us outside the vape or back into a smoky bar when 95% of the ecig users will ask the establishment if it allows vaping before using indoors and be very respectful of others' opinions? Why can't the business itself make up that own decision on ecig use? Which brings me to my next thought. What happens to those stores that carry ecig equipment and e-liquid? If they're grouped in with the hookah lounges and bars, they need special permits and forms to allow vaping indoors, an unnecessary and damning blow to an infant of an industry. There are at least 5 vendors that I can think of in the Philadelphia area that provide stimulus for this waning economy, offering jobs and community outreach programs to help people get away from traditional tobacco. I've seen vendors donate time, money, and equipment to a program designated to help veterans and less fortunate people stop using cigarettes. So I ask you again, why are we criticizing a community that does a lot to help each other out, and even total strangers? I urge you to vote no on 140095 and keep vapors welcome in Philadelphia.